Hey there, JJ Littoral with Tuatera, jumping in real quick to show you guys how we like to frame out how much cash you should consider having on hand in your practice. So obviously keeping cash in the bank account of your practice is super important from a working capital perspective, and also there's a sleep at night factor as well. Knowing you can pay your bills with what comes up oftentimes helps relieve stress, makes you cry less, as Paul would say. So we like to give you guardrails to kind of consider where your cash balance should be. We look at that in two different ways. So we have on top, this is our cash flow monitor. Our members get this each month to help them see where they are in between these guardrails, but you guys can do this calculation for your practice as well. So looking at the top, this is where we consider half a month to a whole month worth of expenses for your practice based on what's happened over the last 12 months, how much you've been spending, so that you can see about how much 1 month of expenses would be to keep that in your bank. Some folks have a lower or a higher risk threshold. So this is where you can kind of set that to be the lower end of this is 50% of a month versus 100% of a month. This is where you can start to get an idea of whether or not there's excess cash in the practice that you can take out for things like distributions, personal tax payments, other investment opportunities, etc. So that's the top bar. And then on the bottom, this is something that became really important in times like COVID, where we actually had stop unexpectedly. So if everything stops, like it did in 2020, and we have to settle up AR, accounts payable, credit cards, etc., what would our bank account look like? So how much cash do we have if things were to stop today? So we take into account your accounts receivable from your data analytics, whether that's Practice by Numbers, Dental Intel, etc. Your biweekly payroll, you'd have people who had worked for you, you would need to settle up paying them, credit cards, any other current liabilities, and then things like your accounts payable and your Invisalign payable. These are items that are not typically found on your balance sheet. So most everyone should be on a cash basis for accounting, so you're not going to see things like AR and AP on a balance sheet. So that's where we like to round out this information from other data sources so that you have that to look back on. And so that gives you, if you were to settle up all of your cash, everything you owe and everything you are owed, where would you be from a cash perspective? So again, we like to look at this in a full month versus a half a month perspective to give you kind of that gas gauge. The reason we use both of these metrics is because it's not always the same. So for example, up top, we would say that you have a month's worth of cash on hand for your expenses. Looks like you're good. The difference is down below, if you actually had to settle up, bringing in all of your AR and paying out all of your payables, because this practice uses credit cards heavily, which who doesn't love credit card points? It's great to be able to utilize the additional payment terms as well as getting some perks like travel rewards or cash back. This practice likes to use a lot of credit cards. So you'll see here that there's actually not as much when it comes to paying the credit card, because that was from expenses previously, where up top we're just looking at an average over the month. So down below is more of a timing, where up top is more of an average. So using those two together can help you make a decision of what you're comfortable with keeping cash in your practice.